Hey viewers, welcome to Wheel Astrology once again. And by the grace of God and Sir James Braha has again blessed us. Wheel Astrology is blessed today again. Thank you so much, sir, for being on Wheel Astrology.
My pleasure.
For making so much of time. It really requires a lot of effort, so thanks for the effort. And on my repeated request, he just says yes. That's so kind of you. And of course, we have been talking about Rahu Ketu, so we are continuing with that. People have loved you so much. People have loved that video so much, showering all the love. So please talk about something about whatever you want to.
Okay. So we're going to look at the conjunctions like Rahu conjunct the sun, Ketu conjunct the sun, Rahu conjunct the moon, Ketu conjunct the moon. Before I speak about each particular one, I just want to talk a little bit about Rahu and Ketu. So in the ancient texts, they always say Rahu is like Saturn and Ketu is like Mars. This is really misleading. It's really misleading. The only way they are similar is that Rahu is 18 years and Saturn is very long, 19 years. And then, Ketu is 7 years, Mars is 7 years, but they are not very similar. So don't look at it that way. Secondly, there's a lot of superstition about Rahu and Ketu. There's no doubt that I have seen big troubles in certain cases where a planet's conjunct Ketu or a planet conjunct Rahu. The bigger problems by far, I've said this over and over, are when planets are next to Ketu. If you look at the nature of the Dushtana houses, 6, 8, and 12, the worst of the Dushtanas are the 8th and the 12th. The reason that they are so bad is that they represent psychic, metaphysical, moksha, everything that is otherworldly. So the 8th and 12th houses, those are good for astrology, psychic, metaphysics. The 12th is very good for enlightenment. But for everything else, because they are otherworldly, they hurt. So if Venus is in the 8th or 12th, Venus gets hurt badly because Venus is worldly and the 8th and 12th are not. Ketu is the same. Ketu is the astral plane. A person where Ketu is near the ascendant or the sun or the moon, they come into this life with one foot still in the spiritual world. And the physical world becomes very stressful because part of them is still back in the spiritual metaphysical world. So planets conjunct Ketu are very badly harmed. The term that I use is that Ketu is like a black hole. If a planet gets near Ketu, it cannot function normally. It has all kinds of weird, strange problems, etc. But with Rahu, planets conjunct Rahu are not harmed so much. They really are not. And in certain ways, they make the planet stronger. But something that I need to say is that if a planet is conjunct Rahu, it actually may become powerful, partly because Rahu symbolizes cravings and desires for worldly power. And so if Venus is near there, the person actually becomes very good with the arts or with Venus activities. Or if Mercury is with Rahu, the person may have great writing talents and things like that. Mercury and Venus could get a little bit harmed by being near those planets, being near Rahu. When a planet is conjunct Rahu and is aspected by another malefic, that's when the troubles come. So when I talk about these planets conjunct Rahu, most of what I'm going to say is going to be pretty good, and the planet won't be harmed too much. But if the planet is conjunct Rahu and it's aspected by Saturn, or it's aspected by the sun, or it's aspected by Mars, that planet is going to have serious troubles. The planet would have serious troubles by being aspected by Mars or Saturn or Sun. Then if you add Rahu to the mix, and you make it two malefics, then that planet gets very hurt. But otherwise, the planet near Rahu actually becomes strong. Now, when you go to India, or at least when I went to India, I found that astrologers used knowledge. It didn't matter where the knowledge came from. If it worked, they would use it. Okay? I'm mentioning this for a very specific reason. Now, first of all, if you look at the Hindu system, the terms Kendra, Trikona, Upachaya, these are not Indian terms. These are Greek terms. Okay? So that's because the Greeks came in and they gave knowledge and they said, oh, this is good knowledge. So it got mixed. I don't think that today's Jyotish is the true Vedic astrology. That's why I don't really call it Vedic. But I'm telling you this because I know both systems, and I have learned information from Jyotish that I can use in the Western chart. I have information from the Western chart that I can use in the Jyotish. I don't mix the systems, but if the knowledge is there, I take that knowledge. So I need to preface the entire talk with this. When Mercury is conjunct Rahu, that person could have a great intellectual career. If Jupiter is conjunct Rahu, they can have a great spiritual career. Those planets become powerful near Rahu. One of the ways to understand this is that in Western astrology, the nodes are known as the South Node and the North Node. In India, it would be Ketu and Rahu. And the South Node in the Western system, you cannot use this in the Hindu, but in the Western system, the house placement and the sign placement of the South Node, they tell us about a person's past lives, what they have brought into this life from the past. And the North Node is the new territory. It's the new area. Okay, you cannot mix this. You cannot use it in the Hindu chart. But when you're looking at a Western chart, let's say that the South Node is in the fourth house, which is land and homes and real estate. So the person in their past lives, they already learned about homes and land and real estate. The North Node's in the 10th house. That means the new territory is career. They're supposed to get away from home and family and go toward career, because that's where the North Node is. If the South Node is in the first house and the North Node's in the 7th, it means in past lifetimes they were selfish and now they have to learn compromise with the partner. Okay, this is only in the Western system, okay, not the Hindu. But here's the point. Here's the point. The North Node of the Western chart is telling us where a person is supposed to focus their new energy, what they're supposed to learn about, what they're supposed to try to accomplish. And the more they go toward the North Node activity, whatever house it's in, whatever sign it's in, whenever they go toward the North Node activity, it flourishes and it becomes very, very beneficial. Therefore, if a planet is within 5 or 10 degrees of that North Node, that planetary energy becomes very easy to access because they're going toward that new territory anyway. Okay, so that's the reason when I start talking about the North Node, I'm going to start talking about those planets conjuncting the North Node as being very powerful. Unless those planets are aspected by Saturn or Mars, because now you've got two malefics hitting them, okay? Now we can start. Okay, so
yeah.
The conjunction of the Sun and Rahu. In several of these instances with Rahu more than with Ketu, it's going to depend upon how they are aspected or what sign they are in, particularly the Sun with Rahu. If the Sun with Rahu is in a really good sign like Leo or like Aries, that person's ego is going to, their confidence and their ego is going to be very strong. That person with the Sun Rahu, as long as the Sun is not in a bad sign like Libra or something like that, or badly aspected, The sun is the soul and the willpower and the authority and the dignity. So now I'm going by experience here, not so much what I read, but by experience, not all, but many of the people with the sun Rahu have a very strong ego. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't mean ego is bad. I don't mean that. I mean they have very strong confidence and they have very strong leadership ability. Okay? Rahu is insatiable cravings and desires for worldly power. For example, if Rahu aspects the 10th house, that can make the career very powerful because Rahu is, even though it's a malefic, Rahu is power, worldly power. So Rahu helps certain houses. If Rahu aspects the 2nd house, the person can make a lot of money because Rahu is power, unless it's aspected badly. Then it changes. Now, Rahu conjunct the sun is always the father. So the person's father, of course, might be smothering, domineering, intense. Of course, those negative effects can be there.
Right.
But as long as there's no extra bad aspects or something like that, basically the sun Rahu makes the person powerful and it gives leadership. And the house that it's in is critical. So if it's not badly aspected and the sun Rahu is in the 2nd house, that's going to be very good for money.
Okay.
Now, it's not going to be very good for family life because those are 2 malefics in the house of family life. That will not be good.
Right.
Rahu and sun in the 4th house might not be very good for the relationship with the mother. Okay?
Right.
But Rahu sun in the 4th house without affliction could be tremendous for real estate.
Okay.
Okay. Rahu and the sun in the 7th house is not very good for marriage because they're 2 malefics. But the partner is likely to be successful and worldly and powerful.
Okay.
So if I'm talking about aspects like Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter, Mercury and Jupiter, Sun, and Mars, Venus, I'm not always talking about how it's aspected. I don't, we can just say Mercury, Venus means this.
Right.
When it comes to Rahu, when it comes to the particularly Rahu, not Ketu, Ketu's different, particularly Rahu,
Okay.
you've got to look at how it's aspected, okay?
Yes.
And then you've got to look at the fact that it's 2 malefics in a house. 2 malefics in a house are going to hurt the house, okay? Unless it's the 3rd, the 6th, the 10th, or the 11th, it might be okay because malefics are good there. But the sun, Rahu alone, usually you're going to see a person who's very confident, who has leadership ability, and whose father was either highly successful or pushy and domineering.
Great.
But you have to look at whether it's aspected or not. Now, if it's aspected by benefics, by Jupiter, by Venus, by Moon, then you're talking about a tremendous benefit, and the person can be famous. The sun, Rahu, if it's aspected by Jupiter or Venus, the person can be famous or powerful. The sun is the soul, and Rahu is, and the willpower, and Rahu is cravings and desires for worldly power, and that's beneficial.
Right.
So this is, okay.
So, sir, you mean to say Rahu expands the significations of sun? So sun gets, because sun's significations are enhanced with Rahu's presence there. So what aspects do you take? Do you take 9 aspects also of Rahu, that means, sir?
Yeah, Rahu and Ketu aspect the 5th and the 9th.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. But
I also do.
Say again what you were saying about the enhancing. So see, this is hard to understand from the Jyotish point of view. From everything that's written, it's hard to understand. From the Western point of view, the person they're new territory. The most important thing I can tell a person in an entire reading is the south node and north node in the Western chart. It doesn't tell me whether they'll be happy, have money, have a good marriage. It tells me what they brought into this life from the past.
Right.
And the north node is what they're supposed to go to. So wherever the north node is, they're going toward that area. And if there's a planet in that, around that area, they access it like that. If
Sure.
Venus is near the north node, their artistic ability is like that. If
Massive.
Jupiter is near the north node, they can go toward religion like that.
Like that, yeah. Yes.
Okay?
So that means
Now,
Rahu is is actually behaving like a benefic with the benefic influence. So you mean to say that, right? So it will be like, yeah, obviously it is.
yes, but
it is
yes,
bringing
yes,
out
but we have to be very careful because
okay.
because anything we say, people will twist it. People will twist it.
Right.
I do not want people running around saying, James Braha says Rahu's benefic. No, Rahu is a malefic.
Benefic, yeah.
Okay? Rahu is a malefic, first class.
Right.
But it doesn't, Rahu doesn't hurt.
Right.
Rahu alone doesn't hurt the way Mars, the way Saturn, the way Ketu, it doesn't hurt like that. It's a malefic. This is why I say,
yeah.
it took me a decade probably. It took me a decade probably to find out that Rahu and Ketu aspects work. My teachers didn't use them. They mentioned them. They didn't use. The way I found out that Rahu and Ketu transits work is that when I would be doing a chart and I would see Rahu's aspecting a house and Saturn's aspecting a house. Rahu's aspecting a house and Mars is aspecting the house. That house suddenly became very difficult.
Okay.
You understand? That was the only, that the Rahu Ketu aspects are subtle. They're real. A Ketu aspect will put spirituality onto an area. If Ketu aspects the 10th house, there is a filmmaking, oil, gas, filmmaking, or a spiritual aspect to the career. But it's subtle. It's subtle.
Right.
The Rahu aspect does something, but it's subtle. So I'm going by my experience, and I can't tell, do these aspects work?
Right.
But when I saw Rahu or Ketu in a house or aspecting a house and another malefic, the effects were devastating. That's when I knew how it works.
Okay.
Now, but to answer your question, if there is a planet near Rahu, it's not that Rahu becomes a benefic. It's not that. It's that planet flourishes.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
This is a real subtlety, and I'm going to go crazy if people misuse my work. I'll go crazy, but that's how it is. You want to be accurate, this will work. Okay.
Yeah, got it. So
the sun conjunct,
good reply. So thank you.
Sure. My pleasure. The sun Ketu, the sun Ketu, okay?
Okay.
So the most personal influences in the horoscope are the ascendant, the sun, and the moon.
Right.
After that, Mercury. So if you take the sun, the moon, or Ketu, or the ascendant, and you put it next to Mercury, the person has you put them next to Ketu, the person has 1 foot in the world and 1 foot still in the spiritual world. They are shy, they are introspective, they are very psychic, but they're introspective and they're shy and they're spiritual. There's no way out of that, except, of course, to strengthen the sun or the moon or whatever. Specifically, the sun is confidence. Of course, the ascendant and ascendant ruler and the moon and the sun, they're all personal, but they're personal in different ways. The moon is the emotions and feelings. The sun is the confidence.
Okay.
So the confidence gets swallowed up in this black hole, and then the confidence gets very rough, they can't find their confidence. It harms the willpower. It harms the father. The father could be alcohol, drugs, illusion, deception.
Okay.
Or the father could be weird or strange. okay?
Mm-hmm.
One way or the other. Now, if the sun is 20 degrees away from Ketu, that's not the same as 2 degrees or 5 degrees, okay? This has to be understood. So if the sun is, I'm describing as if it's pretty close, 5, 6 degrees, 7, 8 degrees. The sun Ketu, the willpower is, their person's introspective, they don't have the willpower. The third house will help, of course, if it's strong. Confidence will be weak. And the father will be weird or strange or spiritual or metaphysical or alcohol or drugs. That's how the sun Ketu works.
Okay.
They will not do well with government. They will not do well with authority figures. And if a woman has the sun Ketu,
Mm-hmm.
the sun is men. The sun is men in general.
Mm.
So even though the 7th house is good and even though Venus is good, but they have the sun with Ketu, the men that they attract may have alcohol, drugs, illusion, deception, or they may be weird or strange. That's just the sun as a planet of men. Okay?
Right. Right.
But the affliction to any planet near Ketu is severe, That planet needs to be strengthened, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not going to hurt other planets.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's the sun.
So you mean to say when you meant 20 degrees gap or, like more than, the desired one, the closest conjunction. So
Yeah.
do you find any difference between the approaching Ketu to Sun or the separative Ketu? Like it is, moving.
Applying is always more intense.
Right.
But if they're 20 degrees away and applying, it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
And if they're 2 or 3 degrees away, it doesn't matter. They're going to be,
Yes, got it.
Yeah. So applying is more powerful, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But these effects are going to be there in any case.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the moon?
Moon, yes.
Moon. You want to look at whether the moon is bright or dim.
Okay.
Bright or dim.
Mm-hmm.
Now in the text it says if the moon is waxing, it's benefic, and if it's waning, it's malefic. This is absurd. It's not the waning and the waxing. The waning and waxing has an effect. But a full moon, if a person's born 2 or 3 days after the full moon, the moon is bright and powerful. If the moon is waxing, but it's 2 days after the sliver, the new moon, the moon is weak. So you go for the brightness. Is it bright or is it dim? That's going to matter. So if the moon is near the north node, the person can access the general public. So if I see somebody that has Rahu with the moon and they have a desire for career or for fame, I tell them, get out to the public. Go show your face in the public, because that's the moon, okay? Now, anything they want to do with farming, anything they want to do with nurturing people, like healing people or taking care of people, is going to be favored. Anything with the public is going to be favored. All of those kinds of things are going to be very favored. And whatever house this conjunction occupies is going to be massively powerful, because the moon and the ascendant, those are the most important influences. Right. Wherever the ascendant ruler is, that's where the person plays out their karma. My moon's in the 12th house. I like to meditate. I like to be away from the public. That's the moon in the 12th. My ascendant ruler is in the 4th house. I love to garden. I love to expand my house. So wherever the moon is, that's where a person plays out their karma. Now you put Rahu there. So if the moon is in the 9th house, they love religion and philosophy and travel. Now you put Rahu there, cravings and desires for travel and higher knowledge, it becomes spectacular. So the house with Rahu moon, the house is going to be incredibly important. And in that house, if they deal with the public, Like if they're going for money and they deal with the public for the money, it's better. Because you're going toward the public with that moon, Rahu, the public is going to be very favored. Now the mother may be, on the positive side, the mother could be successful and powerful, but the mother could be smothering, domineering, intense, anything like that.
True,
Anything
absolutely.
like that. Now, if the moon, if that conjunction is aspected by a malefic, by Mars or Saturn, that moon is in serious trouble. So if the moon is near Rahu, the moon is not in serious trouble. If the moon is near Ketu, it's in serious trouble. If it's near Rahu, it just doesn't, it's a malefic, but it's not giving a lot of harm.
Right.
But if you put one more malefic aspecting that moon, it's done. It's in serious trouble.
Yes.
Because it is getting, it's like this. It's like this. If I take a client and I ask them, are you having problems with this planet that is 6 or 7 or 8 degrees away from Rahu? They say, no, I don't have any problems in that area, right? But I know that Rahu is a malefic, so it must be causing some, but not enough to get them to say it really caused problems. But as soon as you put the second negative on there, then they feel it. Okay?
Right.
Moon Ketu. Moon Ketu. Actually, let me go back to Moon Rahu for a second. The moon is the emotions and the feelings. The moon is the emotions and the feelings. And Rahu is insatiable cravings and desires for power. Okay? So the person with Moon Rahu, they are not likely to be very content and simple and easygoing, because the moon is the emotions and the feelings, and the emotions and the feelings are always on fire a little bit. The emotions and the feelings are being affected by cravings and desires for power. So the moon Rahu is a little bit sensitive on their emotional well-being. When I do a chart, I start out with the ascendant and the moon. And if the moon is afflicted, then I say the emotional well-being in this life is not so good. And they always say that's true, right? So I would much rather have moon with Rahu than with Saturn or Mars. But if they have moon with Rahu, they're not comfortable. They're not completely comfortable. Okay?
True.
It's not terrible.
Phobias or some kind of fears all the time.
Desires, their feelings. In order to feel comfortable, you have to be able to feel everything's okay. But if at every moment, if the moon is near Rahu, at every moment, your feelings are intermingled with, I've got to have that. I've got to have that. I've got to have that. Because Rahu is, it's an animal. It's a snake, and it wants and it wants and it wants and it wants. So it's
So
not
insecurity.
so
You mean to say insecurity? All the
not
time.
insecurity. Not shyness and insecurity. That would be Ketu.
Ketu. Okay.
It's that the emotions and the feel. Sorry, what?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
The emotions are never at rest.
Right.
The emotions are never at rest. They want. Desire, if you're looking for enlightenment, desire is the biggest problem. Our suffering comes from desires. If I don't desire this, you can't make me suffer by pulling it away from me if I don't want it. But the person with Moon Rahu, they always want something, because the emotions and the cravings, they're mixed.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Moon Ketu, of course, is psychic and metaphysical and spiritual. I've said this 20 different times on interviews. If you go to a site, we have psychic fairs, where 25 psychics, they each have a booth.
Oh, is
Okay,
it?
and you visit this psychic and you visit that psychic. I'm
Right.
talking about people. I'm talking about people that don't need the horoscope and they don't need the tarot cards. They close their eyes and they start telling you about your life.
Hmm.
Those most of those people will have the moon conjunct Ketu.
Mm-hmm.
They have the moon conjunct Ketu. They are see, with the ascendant near Ketu and the ascendant ruler or Mercury, you're still partly in the astral plane. But with the moon is the feelings, it's the emotions and the feelings. It completely gets away from the rational mind.
Mm-hmm.
The moon is all the feelings, and it's with the astral plane, so they pick up information without any of the rational mind. They don't need the signs and the planets and the tarot cards. Just their feelings feel it. So they are the most psychic of all. It's a terrible aspect. It's a terrible conjunction generally.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Well, now I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 degrees. Okay, it's not such a good aspect. The biggest problem with it, number one, the person's mother may have been weird or strange or problematic or had mental instability, any of that stuff.
Okay.
And so the person doesn't, particularly if it's a woman, it's worse, because the woman depends on her confidence for her mother a little bit more. Men depend on their confidence a little bit more from the father. If moon is with Ketu and it's tight, the mother was probably unstable in some way. Alcohol, drugs, unstable, insecure. So the woman can't get a good sense of her own confidence just from that.
Right.
So what you find with the moon Ketu person, the mind wavers. The mind. So you're talking to the person, and to have a conversation with them is not very straightforward, because they go forward and they stop. They go forward and they stop. And
Right.
the mind goes in and out and in and out. Now, when I say the mind, Mercury is the mind, and the 5th house is the mind. The moon is the memory and the common sense. So the moon is a mental planet, even though it's purely emotional. It has an aspect of the mind. This is where, so the psychic ability comes from ignoring the mind and going just by the feelings, which are connected to the other plane.
Right.
But on the mental plane, when they're trying to work something out through the intellect, it becomes very difficult.
Right.
Their emotions and feelings are stuck on the other spiritual side of life, and they're trying to work something out mentally, and it just becomes very difficult. It's a rough aspect, not an easy aspect, but it's great for spiritual, and it's a benefic. So I haven't said this yet, but if Rahu is conjunct a benefic, Rahu becomes better.
Okay.
Okay, so Rahu conjunct the moon, that's actually going to help Rahu, because it's a benefic. It's near a benefic. Ketu will benefit by being near the moon. It'll benefit. So they may succeed with oil or gas, film or photography. They could succeed with the sun conjunct Ketu, with film, photography, oil or gas. They could succeed. Even though the sun's a malefic, the sun is the Atmakaraka. It's the soul. But if I had to have Ketu conjunct a planet, I would much rather it be near a benefic, in terms of Ketu becoming wonderful. Okay? But I wouldn't want the benefic being near Ketu, because the benefic itself gets hurt really badly. Okay. Yeah. So that's the moon Ketu. And whatever house the moon Ketu is in is going to be very delicate in terms of knowing what it's going to do, because wherever the moon is placed, that's where the person plays out their karma. So if the moon is in the 7th house, they want to be in relationship, but now the Ketu is there causing problems. So these are, it's a little bit hard. wherever the moon
Any
Ketu.
particular houses, this conjunction is considered to be better than the houses? Like, is there any comparison
See,
that?
everyone is different. So if you put the moon Ketu in the 12th house, it's wonderful for moksha.
Right, right.
It's much worse for the mother. It's much worse for the emotions and feelings, because now the moon gets hurt. The moon gets hurt by being with Ketu. It gets hurt by being in the 12th house.
I agree.
So Ketu in the 12th house flourish, and the moon gets destroyed.
Hmm.
If you put this in the 2nd house, family life, it's not going to help so much, because I mean, the moon in the 2nd house would be great for family life. It's a benefic.
Right.
But if you put it there with Ketu, it's gonna be problematic.
Savings will be exhausted, and rather no savings, I think. And Moon Ketu are in the 2nd house.
Yeah, it depends on how bright the moon is. If the moon is really bright, it depends how close they are. If they're
Right.
not too close, then the full moon would be good in there. Even with Ketu, it just depends on how close it is. You know, my astrologer Padia, he used to say,
Right.
I would make some simple statement, and he'd say, chai is not just tea. It's many, many, many delicate spices all mixed together.
True.
You know? But so if you put the moon Ketu in a Dushtana, it's going to be very rough on the moon, but it might help that house. You know, it just depends.
Right, right. Okay.